started listening to Brian Daboll from last year, the year before that, and how he sounded after this Dallas game. And there is some truth to it. Like, Brian Daboll almost sounded like a guy who just lost his puppy, like saddened. I want to play you one specific clip from the press conference on Sunday. Take a listen. This is Brian Daboll, basically being asked, boy, that sucked. How's that feel?
Yes, I just say, this one hurts, Connor. These guys battled, man, for 60-plus minutes. So we'll, this one hurts. Put a lot into it.
Do you think he's feeling it?
Feeling what? Pressure?
Feeling pressure, the
despondent? I think it's more disappointed. I think after week one, the faith had to be shaken a little bit, even internally. Certainly it was outside of the organization, but I think even internally, because of how anemic offensively they were after how explosive in the preseason. So you go back to work. Week two, you have a really good plan. Now, it sucked in the red zone. We talked about that already. But you have a really good plan, and you put up 37 points.
Yeah.
Which is not something he's done or this team has done a lot during his tenure as the head coach, and you still lose. You're just disappointed. It's like we put our best foot forward offensively. What I control most, obviously the offensive side of the ball, and we came up short. Man, that sucks. I think that's what it is. I don't think it's lasting because it's just not his personality. Getting to know him over the last few years, he is constantly positive, constantly optimistic. So I think in the moment, he let his raw emotions come through.
I wonder if this adds up because after his first season as head coach of this team, in which they got off to a great start, they held on, they made the playoffs, they won a playoff game. We all know the story of 2022. Things have been awful. And they're losing a hell of a lot more than they're winning. And I wonder, after a loss like that, in which you do so much right, and you said it yesterday, boy, there's a lot of positives to take out of the game. Yeah, there were. There were a lot of positives that they did right, but ultimately, they still lost.
Yep.
I do wonder if it gets to him, and I also wonder, he's not an idiot. He knows that he's been here for 4 years, and there's been a lot of losing. He knows the owner needs to be in a better mood when this season is over.
Yes.
He knows there needs to be some wins. It's not just this blanket, I drafted Jackson Dart, don't worry. And so I felt listening to it again that you could almost feel it in his voice, that he knows we got to win some games.
No, of course he knows he got to win some games.
It's great that there were positives, and there were. I don't deny that. But they've got to turn into wins.
I think the biggest thing that Dabes has to do is obviously win some games. You don't need to win 12 games. You need to win some games and be productive. But I think also show that the plan is working and it has a real chance of success happening in the very short term. I'm not talking about 3 or 4 years. I'm talking like next year. This team has to look like it has the competency to be a competitor. Maybe not win a Super Bowl, but get to the postseason. And if he's trending that way, then this season can be viewed somewhat as a success. If it's losing a bunch of tight games like this, then it just gets really difficult for ownership, even for him to make positives out of losses. You just can't do it. You can do it early in the season. Week 2, you can make a positive out of a loss in a way. Week 8, you can't do that. You can't keep saying the same thing over and over again if you're not winning football games.
There was the last 3 years of horrible losses, Tiki, where I thought Brian Daboll a lot of times after the game, and I didn't fault him for this, was very Belichickian type of, the stoic, quick responses. And last week versus Washington, off of a training camp where he was very open and jovial and talking about vibes, and then into this week, there is a different tone and tenor about Brian Daboll where I think he is showing more raw emotion. So I guess the question I would have where I can only observe it as a fan, which is I appreciate that he's exhibiting, I think, what the fan base is feeling for once instead of that. But at the same token, does that seep into a locker room where your message to a locker room is, we poured all we could into this game and it still wasn't enough.
I don't think he's like that in the locker room now.
Like we've moved the page or whatever?
He turns the page quick. He always does. Even last year when it was despondent, I had a couple of those games, and we'd go in there on a Friday or Saturday, and it'd be like, extraordinarily positive. Hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're doing. Yeah, it sucks that we got like our third string guard playing in this game, but you know what? We're going to coach him up and try to give him everything you can. Like, that's just who he is. He's a naturally positive person, and he has an energy about him. But in the moment, right after a emotionally draining game, that was an emotionally draining game. It was. Even for us as fans watching it, it was just draining. You're sitting on your seat the entirety of the second half and certainly the entirety of the fourth quarter. You're just on the edge of your seat. And then you lose like that. It's just like, it's just a letdown.
My fear, though, is as a Giant fan who wants Brian Daboll back and wants him to succeed, I've lived all these bad losses that he's lived to another degree as the coach, right? I brought him up yesterday. The Bills lost, the Jets lost, all these losses the last couple of years. But he never sounded like that after a game. So is that something where he's more conscious about being more open? Or, is there a point in time emotionally where this guy's reaching a little bit of a breaking point here?
I don't think he's reaching a breaking point. Again, I think it's just the moment. In the moment, he feels it.
You know what I would...
And that's natural, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
I agree with that.
Because I think that's how we all felt watching that game. Like, if I'm Brian Daboll, who, yes, you're the head coach of the football team, but you're the offensive guy. Yeah. You're brought here to score points. Last year, the Giants had a 3-win season, and there were very few games, if any, in which you walked away from a loss and said, well, the offense did its job. Mm-hmm. More times than not, that wasn't the answer because they never scored enough points. Like, think about their output offensively in their 14 losses last year.
Do we have to?
I'm going to tell you anyway because it's important.
It was bad.
6, 18, 15, 7, 3, 18, 22, 17, 7, 20, 11, 14, 7, and 13. Okay? So every one of those losses, you walked away from saying, our offense didn't do enough.
Yeah.
This was the first time in a while in which they scored 37 points. Like, Brian Daboll walks away from that game thinking to himself, we did enough. My offense did enough. When Malik Neighbors caught that touchdown with 20 seconds to go, didn't we all kind of think deep down, all right, we got this? I mean,
not with Aubrey sitting there.
Honestly,
maybe not.
Honestly, no, I didn't. Because of what we talked about yesterday. I said, they're going to have the ball in the 30, whatever, plus 30. They're going to need 15 or 20 yards, and they're in field goal range.
Because they've got this super kick. You're right.
I knew that was happening.
No, and you're ultimately right about that. But I think, and this is me projecting on Brian Daboll after listening to that and hearing Sean's point, again, go through all of their losses, even just the year before that, the last 3 years. When have they had a game in which Brian Daboll or you as a fan walked away and said, you know what, our offense did its job? The answer is never.
Never.
And so I would assume in his mind, he's thinking to himself, man, I got everything I could out of Russ. We scored 37 points. Yeah. There were 19 seconds left, and we couldn't win the game. In fact, I assume Brian Daboll had flashbacks from his days in Buffalo with the Patrick Mahomes. How many seconds were left in that game?
13.
It was 13. Oh, okay. So
was he the OC that year?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that sucks.
That was actually his final game as offensive coordinator of the Buffalo Bills before he took the Giant head coaching job. So demoralized or scarred or devastated. I mean, those words would sort of apply when you think to yourself, wow, I just coached my team up to have a 37-point performance in regulation against the Cowboys. We did our job finally, and then you lose anyway. So I can see how that, as a head coach and as an offensive-minded guy, would make me think, I
also think there was a lot of decision-making happening in this game. From the very beginning, very first offensive drive, you have the James Hudson situation that you're now managing. And you saw Dave when he's talking down the line to, I think, Carmen Brazillo, I'm assuming, saying, get Bo ready, right? That's like, it's emotional to make that move because he's just pissed off that you have all of these great opportunities. You're on the 1 yard line and this same dude just keeps crushing you. You're just fired up. And so from that moment until Russ's interception, there was a lot of things that went on in this game, from the Jackson Dart insertion to the red zone decisions, including going for it on fourth down and coming up short for going to the field goal. Like, all of that stuff. There's a lot of coaching that went into this game, and they put up 37 points and still lost.
Yes.
That's just, like, when you – I'm not saying coaching is easy, but there are levels of how like intense the coaching gets. I felt like this Cowboy game for the Giants coaching staff was intense. There was a lot of decisions that had to be made in real time.
Since his rookie season, Brian Daboll and the Giants are 9-27 with him as head coach. The most points they had ever scored in a loss prior to 2 days ago was 25 points.
Yeah.
So just to put in perspective that what they did 2 days ago was very unique in that they scored a hell of a lot more points than they normally score, certainly more than they've scored in any kind of loss, and they still found a way to lose.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that you kind of shake your head at, especially a half hour after the game's over, trying to explain it.
Right.
How do you erase that hangover if that's the feeling of the head coach after the game to turn around and play an 0-2 Chiefs team? That's my worry now, because it's one thing to build on the positives of the 37 points.
Yeah, but I would.
But that's going to be tough to keep in those rooms.
No, I think it's easy to flush it. You flush it. Do whatever you got to do. For Dave's, he's probably in his hot tub, smoking a cigar, flushing it down.
What a visual.
That's what Dave's does. Seriously. And so I think you move on. You have to. It's the urgency of each week. You just move on. I don't think there's a lingering emotional hangover in this game. Some guys, there may be, but those guys don't last long. And Dave's has been around the game for a really long time.
I wonder, especially when you look at the Chiefs and the Chargers coming up. The Chiefs, a desperate 0-2 team with the heart of a champion. The Chargers, maybe a legitimately good 2-0 team.
Keep an eye on that Khalil Mack injury.
Sure. What this is even going to look like over the next 2 weeks.
Right.
What's going to be real interesting to find out is what we saw offensively 2 days ago. Is that real? Like, is that an aberration? Or is that something, not that they have to score 37 points every week, Teak, but can they be a high-octane, big play, we're going to score kind of offense?
Well, but that's what we saw in the preseason.
We did.
That's what we saw. I mean, not just in the games. That's what practice was like for them in the preseason. It was wide open. It was explosive. Obviously, a little bit was Russell Wilson. Some of it was Jackson Dart. Like, you saw this desire to make that explosive play happen. And it's why Malik Neighbors is so important to this team. It's why you hope that Theo Johnson evolves. And he had a much better game in week 2 than he did in week 1. And can you blame him really when you think about it in retrospect? He's a rookie. It's his first damn game. Of course he's going to drop a pass and be a damn rookie. But week 2, he flushed it and had a pretty good outing. So I don't think that this Giant team is in any way in trouble yet. I think they're disappointed because they should have won against the Cowboys on the road, and they didn't. And so now they have to rebound and just get better next week.
888-808-1019. Matt in the Bronx leads it off. What's up, Matt?
What's up, guys? Yeah, I agree with Sean's assessment of Daboll. However, I think this is the first time he can't make up some kind of a reason why it's not really a coach's fault. I feel like he lost it with going for it on 4th down when they got the interception. I mean, he gets points on the board there from a field goal. They win.
Yeah, but think about the Yankees last year. What game was that? 5, with the Judge play. Was that game 5? Game 5. Judge drops that ball. It gives the Dodgers like life. They still had the lead in the inning.
Thank you. Tommy Canley blew the game. Let's remember that.
Yes. Dave screws it up. He doesn't go for the field goal. He doesn't take the free points. Whatever.
They still had
the lead.
They still ended up having 3 more leads.
Exactly.
And Russell Wilson had the ball in his hands 2 separate occasions in overtime where all they needed was a field goal. So you're right that circling that play and that decision isn't fair. But here's the other thing, and I got to go in on this again because now I've had 2 days to think about it. Yesterday when we talked about that decision, I defended Daboll. I said, you know what? If I'm going to win this game, I need more than just 3.
Yeah, it didn't lose their game. It didn't lose the game, no matter what decision.
Right.
It didn't lose the game.
But I stand by the thought. And I would continue that thought on Sunday night in Kansas City or at MetLife against Kansas City.
Right.
They're going to have to be aggressive. They can't settle for field goals against the Kansas City Chiefs. Just like, in my opinion, they couldn't settle for field goals against the Dallas Cowboys. They had a 4th and 2 from the 9-yard line in a game in which they were winning by 3 points.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Right.
Like if Daboll had kicked the field goal, obviously you win the game, everybody's happy, no one complains. But if they kicked the field goal, I'm telling you right now, you may have disagreed. I was going to come on the radio Monday saying, what are we doing? Don't we need to be more aggressive?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if they lose by less than 4 points, absolutely.
Right. And obviously the game is played out completely differently if they have a 6-point lead versus they have a 3-point lead. My only stance is I think that Daboll and the Giants needed to be aggressive in that spot. Like, I get your point you made yesterday. Hey, it's a free possession. It's 3 points.
For me, it was a retrospect. Man, you should just kick the field goal because you had a free possession. And you didn't get any points out of it.
But when I'm listing why they lost this game, and it was an incredible football game, when I'm listing, okay, here's why they lost. Penalty yardage, that's totally up towards the top of the list. You want to make it number one?
That might be number one.
That's fine if you want to make it number one.
Yeah, only because of what the consequences of those penalties were.
Absolutely. Number 2, the soft-ass defense in the last 19 seconds that allowed Brandon Aubrey to even be in position to hit the game-tying field goal.
Right.
But the third one, which you could argue is 2 or number 1, is that despite having a career game, Russell Wilson made 2 awful mistakes in overtime.
Yeah, that's ultimately the thing that cost you. Because it comes down to what do you do when it matters most.
Yes.
Right?
100%.
In the NBA, they track this.
Yep.
Right? What do you do in crunch time? What is your crunch time play like? And that determines in the NBA whether you're a star or not.
Well, you know what that is? Let's stick with the NBA analogy, and we'll use the new king of New York. He's regained it, Jalen Brunson. Sorry, Aaron, it's over now. You got to go play in the playoffs. Let's say Jalen in the postseason has a 50-point game through the first 3.5 quarters. And in the final 5 minutes of the game, he goes 0 for his last 5, misses open shots, and the Knicks lose. Hey, you had a 50-point game. You know, he shot 57% from the field, but ultimately he missed the biggest shots in the biggest moment.
Yep.
That's kind of what Russell Wilson did on Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're being honest.
Right. He was 0 for in the extra period.
He screwed it up.
Going overtime. You go 0 for.
He screwed it up at the end.
Yeah.
We'll get back to your calls in a minute, 888-808-1019. Plus, Tiki Barber, as an experienced broadcaster, his thoughts on the controversial Tom Brady situation. And I've gotten an email. I have to be open and honest about this. There is a loyal listener demanding I wear an L, and it involves the New York Yankees. We'll get...